Ladies and gentlemen, namaskar. Welcome to the 16th edition of the Jaipur Literature Festival, protected by Dettol, Banega Swasth India at the Hawthornden Foundation Mughal Tent. We are about to launch a very exciting book. I think we'll all be hungry at the end of the session, which is, it's almost time for dinner. First edition, Khabaar, An Immigrant Journey of Food, Memory, and Family. We have Madhushree Ghosh in conversation with Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni. Khabaar is a food memoir and personal narrative that braids the global journeys of South Asian food through immigration, migration, and indenture. Focusing on chefs, home cooks, and food stall owners, the book questions what it means to belong and what belonging in a new place looks like in the foods carried over from the old country. The questions are integral to the author's own immigrant journey to America as a daughter of Indian refugees from what's now Bangladesh to India during the 1947 partition of India, as a woman of color in science, as a woman who left an abusive marriage, and as a woman who keeps her parents' memory alive through her Bengali food. Madhushree Ghosh is an author and social justice activist who is an expert on South Asian and global food, and the science and social ramifications of food, immigrant food and journeys, and women in science and food. She is an award-winning author of a debut food narrative and memoir, Khabaar, An Immigrant Journey of Food, Memory, and Family. Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni is an award-winning writer, activist, teacher, and the author of 21 books, including Mistress of Spices, Sister of My Heart, The Forest of Enchantments, and recently The Last Queen, which won the Times of India AutHer Award for Best Fiction, the FICCI 2022 Best Fiction Award, and the Best Book of 2022 Award from the International Association of Working Women. Her work has been published in over 100 magazines and anthologies and translated into 30 languages. She is the recipient of the American Book Award, Penn Josephine Miles Award, a Premio Scanno, and a Light of India Award. Divakaruni is the McDavid Professor of Creative Writing in the Creative Writing Program at the University of Houston. Her newest novel is entitled Independence. Please welcome Madhushree Ghosh and Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni, who will now unveil the book.
So it is my great pleasure today to be in conversation with Madhushree Ghosh and talking about her beautiful new book, Khabaar.
Thank you. Thank you so
much. I'm going to start off with the first question because we have only a little time, and I do want to have a little audience participation with questions. So if you have questions, start thinking about them. So, Madhushree, this is your first book. This is an exciting moment. Tell us a little bit about how you came to write this book, and how does it feel to be launching it today at JLF, and what made you write this book?
First of all, I wanted to thank all of you for coming here, and thank you to JLF for this wonderful opportunity, and of course, Chitra. Everybody give a warm, warm welcome to Chitra. She's the very best. I think writing about Khabaar is a journey come home. I've lived outside of India longer than I've lived here, but I've always come back home. This has always been home. And for me to have this book here is an out-of-the-world, out-of-body experience, frankly. But it's also, it's a question of coming home. What do immigrants always do? We always talk about home. And so for a book to come out that talks about our homesickness, this is exactly what it is. So thank you for asking that question.
No, and really, it is very special to be launching a book at JLF. I really think, and I'm not just flattering you guys, I think we have the best audiences here, right?
Yes.
So tell me, what were some challenges in writing this book?
So the book itself is a combination of essays. So it's a food narrative memoir talking about how food travels with immigration, migration, and indenture. And so for us, South Asians, food is part of our life. This is how we think. This is how we remember our families. And we talk about recipes, but we're really not talking about recipes. We're talking about our memories and what our families taught us. So it's very, very difficult to put homesickness into words. So explaining that to a Western audience is very different from explaining it to us folks, right? We speak in 5, 10 different languages alongside English. I mean, that's how we speak, that's how we think. So trying to write a book with 7 languages plus English was a challenge for people to understand what we were trying to say, what I was trying to say. But in addition, I didn't want this to be a memoir of, oh, my life was so sad and now it's so much better, or my life was really great and now it isn't. I wanted to talk about our journeys. So, we've traveled as immigrants. We've traveled to South Asia, we've traveled to Africa, we've traveled to Europe, and then America. Our stories are universal, so I wanted to talk more about that and make sure that while we're talking about a huge concept, it boils down to love, it boils down to belonging. And so that's what was the challenge that other editors needed to understand when talking about it in a narrative form that is just the essay form. So not writing from start to finish, but each chapter being a contained version.
And did you publish some of these separately before you published the book?
Yes, actually, a lot of my work is as a food writer, so I use food as a social justice tool. So a lot of people think as soon as they look at a book like this with a food picture on top that it's a cookbook. And yes, there are recipes, but it's not a cookbook. So a lot of my essays were published in international journals. They were Pushcart nominated. One of them also was a Best of American Food Essays, notable mention. So people in the food world knew about it, but they also were very interested in finding out about my own journey. So by the time University of Iowa Press came to me, they already knew about my work.
And tell the audience a little bit about your other work, because, unlike many writers, you have a very interesting second job or other job. For me, I write and I teach, and they kind of go side by side. Nobody's surprised about it. But your job is very surprising and different.
Well, okay. So here is the deal. I work in cancer diagnostics. So automatically people assume that scientists either cannot cook, cannot sing, and can only talk about science. And to that, I tell people we are 3-dimensional folks. We all have good qualities, bad qualities, and we're good in something, and in some cases, we are not as good in others. I come from a family of journalists, so writing was part of my life. But when I was in 10th standard, my mother, I come from Sardar Patel Vidyalaya. I don't know if any one of you guys come. Yay. So it's a very creative school. It's a very creative school, and that's where I come from. But I was good in science, and my mother sat me down and said, this is not going to be a dowry plus donation plus marriage kind of a situation. Your brain is all you have, so you have to use that brain. And in order for you to get a job, use the brain for science. And so I moved into science. So I actually actively stopped writing till I got my PhD in biochemistry. So I don't think it's a big deal. I think a lot of people do that. We just don't talk about it. And I think, especially in America, it's very important that we continue to highlight that we can be scientists, artists, creatives, all at the same time.
Yes, I think that's a very important stereotype to break. So thank you for sharing that. Would you read us a little passage from the book to give everyone a flavor of the book?
I'd love to.
Flavor? Cool. Yes.
So I'll read from one of the first chapters. There are a few Hindi and Bangla words, and I'm so glad I'm reading this here because I don't have to explain anything to any one of you. Okay. During the summer of 1977, Baba brought home 3 guavas from Dehradun, a hill station north of us. Fruit in Dehradun was exotic by Delhi standards. Sweet lychees, juicy locards, citrus fruits, mangoes, and guavas were what Dehradun was made of. In Bengali, guavas are called peara. The Dehradun pearas Baba brought were dark avocado, skin green, not the usual yellow with brown spots. The inside was pinkish red with white seeds peeking out. We added a liberal sprinkling of salt and chili pepper to enhance the fruit's sweetness and slight tartness. Ma made aam sharbat with roasted unripe mangoes, sweetened with molasses, spiced with roasted cumin and chili and salt blended with water. It wasn't strange to have fruit with a fruit drink then. It was hot, and as a family, that's what we did on a summer day. Combining Bengali and Hindi, Ma joked, "Pyara se pyar hua." I'm in love with guava. After we ate the first batch of guavas together, only one guava remained. Maybe it was meant for Ma and Baba, maybe they forgot. My brain fixated on the sole pyara on the dining table next to the watermelon and the dasheri mangoes. The pyara needed to be eaten. That afternoon, Didi and Ma were in their rooms, siesta time. To this day, I swear the pyara said, eat me now." A 7-year-old's hands are magically quiet when they need to be. I dared not look for the knife. It would be worse if fingers were sliced in the mission. I ate it whole. Guava juice trickled down my chins onto my white katha stitch chemise. The seeds felt like crunchy dal moat, the savory chickpea flour snacks we had at 4 p.m. every day that summer with our Darjeeling tea. Still firm, the guava had a sweetness like no other. The red flesh in the center of the fruit glistened like Ma's lipstick. Every bite was a beauty, every nibble was a joy. Ma called out, "Rumjum, ki holo?" As Bengalis, we all had our daknam, the name our families used to call us with. One's formal name was for school admissions. Mine was Madhushree, a serious one, meaning the beauty of honey or the beauty of life. Baba called me Puchke, or little one. And the entire family, parents, cousins, uncles, aunts, call me Rumjum. That was my daknam. These days, those who call me that are few and far between. Ki holo, Ma asked again. Nothing, I said, which meant Ma would get up to investigate. Nothing was code, meaning her girls were up to no good. I had to get rid of the evidence. I threw the guava from the dining table area through the open sliding door to the garden patch. I played basketball and volleyball since then, but I've never had as accurate an aim as I had that summer of 1977. Ma shuffled to the table. I yelled, "I'm hungry." "Suspicious," she said, "you're never hungry." Since I can't lie, I make my eyes go blank. Later, Didi would look high and low for the guava, complaining to both parents that I ate it. But my blank look conveyed innocence, and it saved me. And soon we forgot about the pyara.
Thank you so much. That was a great episode, great story, beautiful languages and images. So, and it gave us a true look into the book, that this is a book about your family as well. And this is a story about their journey and yours. So can you talk a little bit about that family history and how you feel about it, and how did you put it into the book, and where, and how did you know where those stories should go? How did you know where this Pyara story would go?
That's interesting. I think all of us have family stories. And we grow up with those stories, so you're rolling your eyes every time your dad or your mom starts off with, "Remember the time, beta, jab ye hua tha aur wo hua tha." And so, when they're gone is when you start thinking about it more and more. So homesickness is what made me talk about this, write about this, tell my friends in America who've never met my parents what my childhood came from. I also wanted to write a book about a childhood that was happy. We invariably talk about childhoods, especially if it's, if you're talking about memoir, you talk about a childhood that's traumatic or something dramatic happened. Nothing dramatic happened in my childhood. It was just fun, clean happiness and joy. So I wanted to talk about that. But additionally, we are children of the partition, and the next generation and the next generation will continue to be children and grandchildren of the partition, and we cannot not talk about it. So my parents' journey was always about the land they left behind. It was always Desh for them, whereas this was Desh too for them. So, to be in this kind of a kashmakash, to be in this kind of a conflict, is the immigrant's curse, and it's the immigrant's blessing. So as children of immigrants, I feel as a writer, it's my job to continue to talk about that. So whenever I've talked about my parents' childhood or my parents' memories, I've braided that with my own, because I did not live their childhood, but I lived my childhood listening to their stories that then connected us back to the land we came from. So you've done the same thing in Independence, so it'd be lovely to talk about that too.
In a minute, maybe. But that's lovely that, yes, our parents' stories, our grandparents' stories, actually, you're right. Those are some of the stories that went deep into me and made me want to write the novel Independence, which we'll talk about at another point tomorrow. But I was very touched by what you just said, that their memories became, in a way, your memories. But we don't realize that or appreciate that until the older generation is gone. And it is now that I really appreciate my grandfather's stories more than I ever did. And I'm sure for all of you, there's special stories, isn't there, that elders have told us, and we realize their value when the elders are passing away. So, now your book, however, is not only about a happy childhood. There's a lot of other things, including moments of trauma, that you very honestly looked at, and that give a different kind of depth to this book. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So I went to America for graduate school, and then I fell in love, and I got married. I was married to someone for 17. I was married to him for 11 years. I was with him for 17. And it turned out to be an abusive marriage. As a educated science person, a feminist who's grown up being a feminist, the automatic assumption was it can't be happening to me. And it's also, and this is a very interesting thing that we do to convince ourselves that I am strong and therefore it cannot be happening to me. So it took me a while to realize what was happening when I left the marriage. Now, there was no need for me to talk about this. I could have skimmed it over and moved on. But the reason why I talk about this is in America, there have been quite a few surveys done on intimate partner abuse. And one of them by a magazine called Khabaar magazine that published the survey was 48% of women, South Asian women, experience some form of domestic or intimate partner abuse, whether it's sexual, emotional, physical, excuse me, physical, immigration, and also fear of losing their children, which means every other woman, South Asian woman that you interact with may have a story that you may not know. And I talk about this quite a bit because within the South Asian community, we are the model community, we are the successful community, we do things the right way. Domestic violence is not supposed to be part of that equation. We are not supposed to talk about it. And that's why I wanted to talk about it because, I get comments like, for someone who's been through this trauma, you're very jolly. That you're supposed to sit around and be all upset and sad about it. And the fact is, you can be upset and sad about it, but you are a three-dimensional person, so there's more to your life than just that trauma. but it's also brings light into our lives as well as light into this community that we have good, bad, and ugly, everything making us what we are. So that's what I wanted to talk about, and also wanted to talk about life outside of that. Once I came through that there is a beautiful life outside of it if you believe in yourself. Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciated that part of the book because it took a lot of honesty. Took a lot of courage to write about it. As some of the people in the audience might know, and as you know, because we've discussed this, I've been involved doing activist work in the field of domestic violence and intimate partner violence for a long time. And one of the problems is the silence that surrounds it, the shame that women are made to feel if they are, survivors or victims. And I'm so pleased that, I really commend the fact that you're speaking up and perhaps inspiring other women to speak up themselves, to move on, and to recognize that we are three-dimensional beings, as you said so beautifully. Yes, that happened to me, but there's more to me than that.
Exactly.
So,
thank you so much for that.
thank you. Let's see, how are we doing for time? All right, we have about 10 minutes, 9 minutes. Yes, let me ask you about the fact that you have not italicized Indian words in this book. And I think you had a discussion, or maybe you had to make a decision about it, because many Indian books that are published in other countries will italicize the Indian words. And was this a political decision?
Absolutely.
What was it? Tell us about it.
Absolutely political decision. I think it's high time. It's high time we stopped italicizing our words. All of us speak in... I don't have to explain it to this audience. We speak in 7, 8 languages at the same time, and we understand each other. And this was an ambitious book because I had 7 languages in there besides English. But my editors at University of Iowa Press were very, very encouraging of that, because what happens when you italicize something, what you're trying to do is make sure that the reader looks at it and says, oh, it's a different word, so let me find out what it means, or it's a different word, it's not English. But for folks like us, because we speak in that, it's not a different, we speak in English most of the times, right? So, so if you are writing it and you are italicizing it yourself as an author, then what you're saying is, I'm othering myself already. I'm already telling you I am exotic, I am different. And we are not. We are not. And right now you have a lot of Spanish words that are part of English vocabulary. So why not Hindi? Why not Bengali? Why not Tamil? I think we can do that. We can do better. And we need to somehow also start to be firm about it. We do not have to bend, because the way narratives are changing now, in English, the way narratives, it does not have to be flowery. It could be regular language that you and I are speaking and still convey the same meaning that flowery English would have 50 years ago. So it's about time that, especially the newer generation of writers are significantly more experimental in how they convey narration. So I really enjoyed doing it. I will not back down from it. I will continue to write this way.
And I think the ultimate result of this is we are enriching the English language, which is a world language now. It is, we have taken it, we have made it our own.
It is our own.
And it is, how would we say it? The empire strikes back. Okay, and now from the audience, some quick questions, very focused, please. Just ask the question, because we do want to get to a few people. Is there a mic in the audience? There are mics in the audience. Raise your hand, wave, I see over there, a hand.
Congratulations on your book, ma'am.
Thank you.
I have 2 quick questions. One, can you explain how the name for the book came about? Because I'm very honestly not familiar with the meaning of the word. And secondly, you talked about how these food traditions have been passed on to you from your parents. Is there a concern about the future generations picking up these traditions? Is there a concern that they'll get lost? Are they following what you have picked up?
Yeah, thank you for that. So the first question was about the word khabar. Everything is political about what I do. So khabar is a Bengali word for food, and it's also a play on khabar, which you know what khabar means. But I wanted to put khabar in there because I wanted people to understand our language, the Bengali language, which is one of the sweetest languages on this planet. And I also wanted the Western readership to learn a new word. And so everybody knows khabar now. With regards to food traditions dying or food traditions getting lost in the next generation, here is what I say. We should take away the word authenticity in food out of our languages. And here is why. Because as food is traveling, the spices are traveling with you, or you're buying spices in a different city. So what you ate in Calcutta will not be the same food that you try to make in Chittaranjan Park, New Delhi. It will not be the same that you make in Madras. So within the country, you're changing it. So can you imagine when I go to San Diego and I try to find, methi saag and try to make that? It's not the same. So how is it authentic? It is authentic in that my feelings are authentic. I remember my parents when I make this food. That's how you're carrying the tradition. The tradition you're carrying is what makes you feel at home, right? So if we quit stressing the younger generation out over recipes, we'll all be the better for it.
This is true. So, for a while I have two boys. So I wanted to pass on to the boys my recipes. And they were resistant. Mm-hmm. And I said, but boys, you won't have Ma's food. And they said, we will have Google Ma's food. All right, let's see. Yes, in the front. And men, I know that you are there with questions also. Please feel free to raise your hands.
Hello,
Yes.
ma'am. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yes, I just have one question that for both of you, it's the common story of going to abroad and then, emerging as beautiful writers. So my question is actually to both of you, that how have you been able to make India travel with you? Like, just even through your writings and even through as much as you must have explored abroad, but still how have you been able to make India travel with you along?
Yeah, I think
I'm going to let you answer.
Okay.
I'll have my session tomorrow at 11. You ask me then.
I'll be quick about this, though. I think India is in your heart all the time. I've been outside of India longer than I've been in India, but I'm always Desi. It doesn't really matter what citizenship you have at the end of the day. What happens is, for me, it's food. So no matter what, so during the pandemic, I grew a lot of the food at home. And so anything that I grew, all the saag, all the cauliflower, bell peppers, everything, all the sabzis that I made was with either pach phoron or a jeera chonk, food that my mother fed me, which I didn't pay attention to when I was growing up, but that you automatically, it's in your zehen, it's in your head, it's in your heart.
But just there's one more thing. You said that you talked about the traumas that you faced after being there, after being married. So even still, you still had to, there is some part of you must have been going back home and must wanting to be coming back to home. So, dealing with that particular thing in an abroad space, it's a big thing to do, and still keeping intact with your own country.
Yeah.
That is what
So
I was
I
looking
think
for.
you can deal with trauma in many different ways. You can deal with it. You can deal with it from the perspective of keeping your memories alive. You can deal with it by respecting the roots you come from and disengaging with the roots that are not of value to you anymore. So you have to be very conscious about what you bring into your life. For me, because I was married to a South Indian, it took me a long while to go back and start cooking South Indian food again. It was hard for me. So it only happened when I was able to heal from where I was, to be able to be myself and say, yes, I can make a dosa and not start crying looking at it.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that was a great answer. And we're out of time, so there's going to be, I know you have questions, all of you wonderful people. Madhushree is going to be signing books in the back. You can ask her questions. You can also admire her little earrings, which are tea kettle earrings, okay? So please keep your questions. Go see Madhushree there. And thank you all for being such a great audience. A big hand for Madhushree.
Chitra Banerjee.